Guys, in this video, I'm going to build a simple contact form using Material UI, and we are going to learn some new skills together in this video. So I'm just going to show you how this contact form works, and then we'll try to build it from scratch using Material UI. So in this contact form, if I try to submit this, it's going to give me an error that email is missing. And the error is going to be in red color. And if I put my email and leave other fields blank and try to submit this, so it's going to check for the name and it's going to say name is missing. And if I mention the name and try to submit this form, then it's going to say another error, that is message is missing. And if I put all the fields, and then it's going to say your form is submitted and it's going to be in a green color. So this video is mainly focused on how to build these notifications if there is any error in submitting a form or the form has been submitted successfully. So we need to give some notification to the user at the end, and we are going to build these notifications using Material UI. So stay tuned till the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Now let's go to the Visual Studio Code and start coding this. So guys, I have a fresh React application and we are going to build this project here. Before we start coding, let's have a look at Material UI documentation. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what are the steps that we are going to follow to build this project. So here in Material UI documentation, the first thing I'll do is I'll install Material UI into my project using this command here. So after installing Material UI, I'll be using some components from this list here. So I'm just going to be using a TextField components to build the basic contact form as we have seen in the original project here. And to build this submit button here, I'm just going to be using a button component from Material UI. So you can explore the documentation. There are many kinds of buttons here and there are different kinds of text fields you can use to build the form. But I'm just going to be using a basic ones here. And after we have built the entire contact form using text field and the button, we'll be using some feedback components to build the notifications on the form. So one is the alert. So if you explore this, you can see that we have many different kinds of alerts here, but we are going to be using this alert along with this Snackbar. So I'm just going to head over to my Snackbar here. So if I scroll down, I can see that if I click on this, there is a notification coming from the side. And if I look at all other kind of notifications, we can also decide from which side this notification is going to be pop up. So if I choose top center, it's going to be at the top. And if I choose top left, it's going to appear here, and the bottom left is going to be here. It depends on the UI of your project, which one you're going to use. So we can also choose bottom right. So in this video, I'll be using a top center, but you can use any of them as you like. So if I scroll down a little bit, I can explore all kinds of snack bars that are available here, because I like these kind of snack bars where they have an alert component that is inside the snack bar. So this is the one I'm going to be using in this video, but you can pick any from the documentation and use it. So now let's go to the Visual Studio Code and start using all these components. So I'll go to my project here. So I'll just remove all the default code here and save it. So after removing all the default code, I'm also going to open my terminal and install Material UI into this project. So let's have a look at the documentation. And if I go to my installation section, so here I'll copy this command and use it to install Material UI. So let's install Material UI here. So now Material UI has been installed in this application. I'm just going to import some components here from Material UI. So I'm just going to import button from Material UI and text field. We are also going to need an alert component and a snack bar. So I think these 4 components should be enough to build this project. So I'm just going to change my class name to container here, and I'm going to apply some styling to this container by using a style tag. And inside this, I'm just going to apply container styles, and we can create container styles here at the top. And this is going to be display flex. I'm just going to mention my flex direction, and it's going to be column. So between all the elements that I'm going to place in this div tag, I'll just assign some gap to them, and the gap is going to be 20 pixels. And we are going to align all those items in center, and we are also going to justify our entire content in this div tag to center. So these 2 properties are basically going to align all the components that we are going to write in this container in the center of the page, horizontally and vertically both. And I'm going to say that this div tag should have a height of 100 VH, and let's assign a background color, which should be black. Let's save this. Let's put a div tag here and just say hello world in this div tag for now. Let's go to the application and see how it's looking on the front. So we can see that our hello world div tag has come in the center of the page, but the background color is not working for some reason because we have made a spelling error here. So I'm just going to fix my background color. Actually, I'm assigning a background color just to check that my div tag is having the entire 100 VH height. We don't really need a background color here, so I'm just going to comment this. Let's save this. So now we can see that any component that we are going to place in this div container is going to appear in the center of the page horizontally and vertically. So I'm good to go. Now I can start building my contact form here. So I'll just place my first text field here, and I'm going to assign a label to this text field. And the first text field is going to be the email. And I'm also going to assign an ID to this, and the ID is going to be email. And to this text field, I'm also going to assign some styling. So I'm just going to use a fx tag in Material UI to apply the styling here. So here I'm just going to say styles.textField. And here we can create a object that is going to be styles. And inside the styles, there is going to be the text field styles. And to the text field, I'm just going to assign my width, which can be 300 pixels. Now let's save this and see how it's looking on the front end. So this is our email. It's looking perfectly fine. So now I'm also going to put some onChange function on this text field. And this function is going to be handleChange. And above the return, I'm just going to create a handleChange function. Let's leave it blank for now. We'll come back to this. But before that, we are going to complete our contact form here. So I'm just going to copy this text field and create one more. And this text field is going to be the name, and the label will be name. And the last text field that we are going to need in this form is going to be the message. And we can assign the label as message. So we have all the text fields here, but the last text field, I'm just going to make it multi-line because the message can be long. So we are going to make it multi-line, and we are going to say that rows of this text field should be 4. Let's save this. So now if I go back, you can see that I have email, name, a message text field, and this message text field is having 4 rows. So I can write a message as long as 4 rows. But now we are also going to need a button at the bottom. So I'm just going to go back, place my button component here, and this button is going to say submit. I'll put a variant as contained on this button, and I'm also going to put some stylings here by using a style tag, and this is going to be taking styles.button. We already have a styles object at the top where we have defined all the text field styles. So I'm just going to add more to it. I'm also going to add styling for the button here. So my button width can be 100 pixels, and I'm just going to assign a background color to my button. So the background color of this button can be black. And now we have all the styling on the button. I'm also going to put a onClick function here. And this onClick function is going to be handleSubmit. So basically when somebody clicks on this button, we are going to run a function that is handleSubmit, which we are going to create here. So this is our handleSubmit function. As of now, we can just leave it blank. We'll come back to this. So now let's look at the front end if everything is looking fine. So now we can see that our contact form is looking basic, fine, and we can probably increase the width of all these text fields. So I'll go back to my styles object here and increase the width of my text fields to 400 pixels. So I think 400 pixels is better. So now we are going to work on the handleChange and handleSubmit functions for these text fields and the button. So when we type something into our text fields, we are going to need a state variable in the application to save all this information. So let's work on the handleChange function first. So for the handleChange function, I'm just going to need a state variable in my application, and the state variable is going to be data and set data. And we are going to save all the information that user is going to enter in the text fields here in the form of object, and that is going to save a name, email, and a message. So the initial values on name, email, and message can be blank. So let's go to the handleChange function. So on the handleChange function, we are going to receive an event, and we have assigned IDs to each and every text field here. We can see that ID is email, name, and a message. So here I'm just going to write some logic that if my event.target.id is going to be email. So I'm just going to set my data to whatever the data is, and I'm just going to change the email to event.target.value. So same way, I'm just going to copy this 2 more times. And if my event.target.id is name, so I'm just going to save my name as a value, whatever I'm receiving from the user. And if my event.target.id is message, so I'm just going to change my message in my original data. So that's all we are going to need for the handleChange function, which will be storing all the data that user is going to enter in the text fields into our data variable, that is a state variable in this application. So now we have to start working on the handleSubmit function. So when somebody will submit this, so this function is going to be fired. that is handleSubmit function. So when somebody will submit the form, I'm just going to check my data first. If my data.name is blank, I'm just going to alert that name is missing. Let's check an email first. So if my data.email is equal to blank, so I'm just going to alert that my email is missing. So same way, I'm just going to copy that twice. And after it has sent the alert, I'm just going to return. None of the code after my return statement is going to run. So first it's going to check the email and then it's going to check the name. So if the name is blank, it's going to say name is missing. And if the message is blank, it's going to say message is missing. And after every alert, we are just going to return. But if none of this is missing, then I'm just going to alert that my form has been submitted. So let's save this and see what's happening on the front end now. With the help of this handleSubmit function, we have created some basic alerts using a JavaScript alert function. So let's have a look at the front end, how this form is working. So here, if I try to submit this form, it's just going to say email is missing. So I think this logic is working fine. So if I put my email and try to submit this, now it says name is missing. So if I put the name as well and try to submit, it's going to say message is missing. So if I submit everything and try to submit this, now my form has been submitted. So now our basic form is working perfectly fine. So this is where we are going to start improving the design of these notifications using Material UI. So I'll go back to my Material UI documentation and go to the components. Let's find the Snackbar component here. So here in the Snackbar component, I'm just going to scroll down, and as I scroll down, I will find a section where we can use the Snackbar component along with the alerts. So that's the kind of Snackbar I'm going to be using in this application. So here in Material UI, I'm just going to expand the code. So here, if I look at the bottom, I can see some chunk of code that they're using for the Snackbar. So let's copy this chunk of code from here and put it in our application. I'm just going to put it after my button. So that's all good. We can see that the Snackbar component is using a variable that is open, and it's also using handleClose function. So I'll go back to the documentation. So here we can see that there is a handleClose function. I'm just going to copy that and paste it in my application. And as of now, we do not have this open variable in our application. If we look at the documentation here, they have a state variable here that is open. So if I copy that as well and go back to my application, I can just copy it here. So initially my open variable is false. So if I go back to the browser and see this application, we can see that there is a minor error here. React is not defined. So we are just going to fix that. I'm just going to import React from React. So this is going to fix the error. But as of now, we can see that we are not able to see any notification that we have placed after the button. This is because by default, our open variable is set to false. And here in the Snackbar, we can see that we are passing the open variable. So if the open variable goes true, then only we will be able to see the Snackbar. So I'm just going to set manually to true. So this is how it's going to look. We are going to customize it a bit more. Like we will need to change this message and the color of this Snackbar based on whether our form is submitted successfully or something is missing, like email is missing, name is missing. So I'm just going to make the color of the Snackbar and the text inside the Snackbar dynamic. So as of now, this is a static text and the color. So if I go back, so here in the Snackbar, this is going to be the message that's going to be displayed on the Snackbar, and the color is being decided by severity. So if I set my severity to error, it's just going to display it in red color. And if I change it back to success, it's just going to display it in green color. So we are going to make these two fields as dynamic using our open variable. So I'm just going to change it to open back again. So guys, I'm just going to make some changes in the default code that we have copied from Material UI. So I've created this open variable as true or false, but this time I'm just going to create it as an object. And this object is going to have three properties. One is open, and the initial value of open can be false. And it's also going to have a message that we are going to pass in the notification. And the initial value of the message can be empty string. And let's create another property that is severity, that is going to decide in which color the notification is going to appear on the screen. So the initial value of this can be success, which is a green color basically. So we have made some changes to the open variable. So we are using the open variable in our Snackbar here. So here in the Snackbar, I'm just going to say that it should open if my open.open is true. And the message that is going to display here is open.message. And the color of this Snackbar is going to be based on open.severity. So whatever we set our open variable to be, that's going to be displayed as a snack bar. So now when somebody tries to submit this form, we have a very basic kinds of alerts here. All we are going to do here is we are just going to replace this basic alerts with the Material UI notifications. And this notification is only going to show on the screen if I set my open variable back to true. So I'm just going to set my open.open to true here. But if my email is empty, then my message is going to be email is missing, and severity of this is going to be error. If I mention my severity as error, the notification is going to be appearing in the red color on the screen. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. So if my name is missing, I'm just going to say name is missing, and I'm also going to copy this here. If my message is missing, so I'll just change it to message is missing. Severity is again going to be error. And if user is submitting the entire form, then I'm just going to change my message to form is submitted, and severity is going to be success this time, because this time the form is actually submitted without any errors. So now we are all done. Let's go back to the application and test this logic. So here in the application, if I try to submit this, I can see a notification in red color which says email is missing. So if I put my email and try to submit this, so this time my name is missing, and if I enter my name and try to submit this, the message is missing. But if I enter the message as well and try to submit, so this time my form has been submitted successfully. And the last thing that I am going to cover is that how to move the location of this notification. So as of now, my notification is appearing in the bottom left. I'm just going to move it to top center. So to do that, let's go back to the code. And here in the snack bar, I can add one more property here, that is anchor origin. So in this property, I'm just going to pass an object that is going to say vertical top and horizontal center. So this is basically going to move my snack bar to top center. So let's save this, go back to our application, refresh it. So now if I try to submit this form, my notifications have moved to the top of the page. So that's how we build the notifications using Material UI snack bar component. So if you found a value in this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and I'll see you in the next one.